A surgeon named Matt is dissecting a face, layer by layer. He cuts through the epidermis, the fat, and the facial muscles, searching for a very specific target. He wants to locate the physical source of beauty. He isolates the blood vessels, the nerves, and finally the bone. But no matter how precisely he wields his scalpel, he finds no physical trace of beauty. Beauty is not a tissue. It does not exist as a distinct biological substance you can put under a microscope. The exact same logic applies to the human brain. If you crack open a skull looking for a memory, a thought, or the experience of the color red, you are going to be disappointed. You will only find wet, gray tissue and microscopic pulses of electricity. This gap between biological matter and your rich internal experience is what philosophers call the hard problem of consciousness. Looking for subjective experience inside individual brain cells is exactly like slicing up a face to find beauty. We are looking at the right object, but in completely the wrong way. For decades, we have fallen into two massive philosophical traps. The first is hardcore materialism. This is the idea that humans are entirely just meat machines, and subjective experience is an illusion caused by complex behavior. But materialism hits a wall when dealing with human senses. Knowing the exact physics of light wavelengths doesn't explain the actual internal sensation of seeing the color red. You can read a physics textbook on optics all day and still experience something entirely new the second you look at a rose. When materialism fails, people run to the second trap, dualism. This is the classic belief that your physical brain and your immaterial mind, or soul, are two completely separate entities that somehow talk to each other. The problem with dualism is that an immaterial ghost interacting with a physical body directly violates the laws of physics and energy conservation. For a non-physical thought to move your physical arm, it would have to generate energy out of nowhere. The machine metaphor fails, and the ghost metaphor fails. To understand how physical matter actually creates a subjective experience, we have to find a third way. In the 17th century, a philosopher named Baruch Spinoza proposed exactly that. He argued that mind and matter are not two different things. They are the exact same reality, simply viewed from two different angles. Spinoza had the right idea, but he lacked the biology to prove it. Fast forward to 1982, when physicist John Hopfield published a mathematical model of neural networks that finally provided the biological mechanism. A single neuron is simple. It fires a spike, or stays silent. Alone, it cannot hold a memory. But when multiple fire simultaneously, connections strengthen. As a group, they coordinate to encode a distinct geometric pattern, like the number 4. This is the scientific principle of emergence. A collective network develops entirely new, higher-level capabilities that simply do not exist in its individual isolated components. To see how this scales up to consciousness, look at how the brain stacks emergent networks. Low-level neural assemblies process basic features like shape and color. These link into a meta-network, integrating data to form a complete object, like a cheese slice. Finally, the multimodal meta-network combines all senses into one unified hypothesis of reality, like a full dinner table. This overarching top-level hypothesis, generated in real time by the entire multi-tiered network, is the actual state of consciousness. This brings us to a concept called emergent correspondence. There is no internal I sitting in a theater inside your skull, watching these sensory inputs play out on a screen. Think of the brain like a massive retail corporation. On the shop floor, millions of individual physical transactions occur every day. Collectively, those tiny exchanges build up to a singular end-of-year metric, the annual profit. You won't find the annual profit sitting inside any specific cash register, and you can't put it on a scale to measure its physical weight. Yet it emerges as a very real property of the whole system, exactly like a subjective feeling. Electrical brain pulses do not physically cause a subjective feeling later in time. The physical pulse and the subjective experience are the exact same event, happening simultaneously at different levels of complexity. Even with the science laid out, our brains still struggle to accept this. If emergent networks resolve the hard problem, why does it feel so deeply counterintuitive? The ancient philosopher Aristotle popularized the idea of horror vacui. Ancient thinkers vigorously rejected the physical existence of a vacuum, simply because they were mentally incapable of picturing pure emptiness. We suffer from a similar lack of imagination. We cannot picture the transition from a firing cell to a conscious thought, because human imagination is built exclusively from outward-facing sensory experiences. Your brain never gives you a backstage pass to view your own neural biology. We have to stop trying to measure the physical weight, mass, or exact biological coordinates of a conscious thought. A thought doesn't weigh anything, just like a corporate profit margin doesn't weigh anything. Human consciousness pulls itself out of the biological machinery through the mathematical elegance of emergence. The mind transcends the physical parts, but it only exists because of them.